You are listening to the Life in Alignment podcast, and this is your host and your coach, Naphtali Anderson. And today's episode is called Breaking the Silence: How Men Can Harness Emotional Pain for Growth, Part 2. So relax your mind and enjoy the show. So if you haven't listened to part 1, I suggest that you start there. All right. So we touched on why we as men bury our emotions, why physical exertion, like, different types of sports, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, hiking, running, just going for walks. It's nice, but it doesn't completely release the painful and sometimes really heavy emotions that we carry around. All right, I shared a story from my younger days about how our self-image dictates our results way more than our skill actually does, right? And why no trophy, raise, title, promotion, or anything like that can actually fill the void long term. We feel the high for a little bit, but that void always seems to be there. Okay, and why we have to do the inner work. Right? We have to do the inner work because that's the only thing that will actually give us freedom. So today, I'm going to share with you a few tools that you can start to actually do that inner work. But first, what is that freedom that we are looking for? When I say it, I'm talking about freedom to live true to who we are, to no longer be trapped in the world of people pleasing, to earn validation and acceptance because really you already have it, where you are valuable just because of who you are, right? And you build and create in this world because you know your worth, rather than building and creating from a space where you're trying to earn your worth from other people. So how do we get there? Honestly, how do we get to that point? And the biggest part is through the stories that we tell ourselves. So we're going to talk about some examples, right? Because one thing that I know that men struggle with outside of just the validation piece is actually loss. Okay. The two most powerful forms of this loss is really being deeply hurt in some way by the woman that they love, or a death to someone that's actually close to us. And the more unexpected that these things happen, the deeper the pain. And why are these two things so powerful? Because we as men don't let people get close to our hearts. We keep ourselves shielded. We have certain layers that you have to really work to get past. And when somebody gets through to that point, when they're actually in our hearts, then everything that they do when someone that you love turns their back on you, or, even a friend is not even necessarily in a relationship, even just a really, really close friend, and they just turn on you, it really gets deep into us. Right. And sadly, I'm familiar with all different forms of this pain. Right. But I'm going to talk to you about losing someone to death. Right. Because honestly, I was talking to a friend that we lost, a mutual friend recently. And, he was closer to this friend. They were friends who were like 35 plus years, and we're only 40 years old. So pretty much all his life. And also because the anniversary of my older brother's death is coming up. So that's kind of on my mind. And at the time that my brother actually passed away, which is about 2 years ago, I was running a monthly men's group called Men of Alignment. And in this group, we had really deep talks. We had talks about a lot of this pain. We had talks about managing our thoughts and our emotions. We had talks about how we show up for our families. We had talks about building our career. We had talks about what it is to be a man. And, I know my brother needed to take better care of himself. I know he needed to talk about these things that we were discussing, right? Men's mental health is something I guess brushed under the rug. But sadly, he never showed up. And when he died, I constantly asked myself if I had done enough while he was alive for him. Did I support him enough? In a way, I felt like I failed him. I felt like I should have pushed harder for his health, especially his mental health, right? Finding peace, dealing with stress, because that's where everything really starts. His self-image. And my friend was doing the same when I spoke to him. He was battling with the thought of if he did enough for our mutual friend while he was still alive, should he have pushed harder for his health? Should he have done things differently? Should he have supported him in different ways? Could he have had more of an impact? And let's be honest, right? This is natural. There's nothing wrong with this. It's a natural response to loss. To ask all these questions, the should haves, the could haves, everything you would have done differently. But the biggest thing that hurts us as men is that this is the only thing that we do. We start and we stop here. Actually, we never really stop. We just continue to ask these questions with no end in sight. We rack up the guilt and the blame within ourselves. And at the same time, we try to be a support, right? We try to be supportive to all the ones that are around us, helping people know that they will be okay. Maybe even showing up for our kids and just helping them to understand that it's all right, and letting everybody else cry and release this grief while trying to be the rock, trying to be unshakable, trying to look so stoic that, yes, I understand that this is a tremendous loss, but I'm okay. This is just part of life. Now, thankfully, I learned how to cry by the time my brother passed away, but I still had to show up as that rock as needed. There were certain parts of the funeral where I had to kind of take the lead, and I had to show up and I had to take control. So I couldn't be letting loose and all that stuff. I had to maintain, right? There was people that I needed to help support at certain times, but I had to balance that and let myself find time to release and to cry and to feel that pain and to embrace that. But at the same time, unless I wanted to stay in that full weight of pain, okay, I still had to change my story, right? My story being what I believe about the whole situation, right? That I should have done more, that, I failed him, that, I'm a men's coach trying to help other men, but yet I couldn't really get to my brother. So how powerful can I be? All these things going on in my head, all these stories going on and changing how I felt about myself. Even the monthly men's group that I was running at the time, I started just canceling the meetings and I just let it die because I didn't feel powerful showing up for these people, even though when I was running it, it was very productive and people were very thankful and they were growing a lot and it was awesome. But it just shook my whole world and the story that I was telling myself. But I had to shift. So instead of pouring the guilt, I had to start asking myself a question. Instead of saying, could I have done more? The question had to change to, did I do everything that I thought was right at the time with the information that I had? All right. So we can look at life today and look back, and we judge ourselves by what we know now and hold that old self responsible for making certain decisions. Now, we do have to take ownership of the decisions that we make, but we also need to respect the fact that that person of last year, that person of last month, that person of even yesterday did not know what you know today, right? So you have to be fair in understanding that when I was in that space, was I just doing my authentic truth and being the right person that I felt that my brother needed at the time, being a brother the best way that I knew I could be at the time? And that answer was yes. I did what I thought was right. And if I was working against my integrity, then yeah, I have some guilt that I have to deal with. But the fact of the matter is, I felt like I was doing most everything that I needed to do. I'm not perfect, but I was trying my best. So since that answer was yes, I had to let go of that guilt. And that actually takes us right into one of the exercises that I like to do with my clients called identifying the thieves. And I think that I might have even mentioned this on another episode, but who are these thieves, right? Who are these thieves? These thieves are thoughts. These thieves are beliefs that are stealing from your power and your peace on a daily basis. All right. So to get right into the exercise, I have a challenge for you. So this is a 3-day just about challenge. All right. And so I want you to spend the next 2 days just writing down the things that you say to yourself about yourself, that you think to yourself about yourself, whether out loud or in your head. It doesn't even matter. And don't censor it. Write it all down. Don't pick and choose and say, this one's kind of bad, this one's not too bad, whatever. No judgment. Just write it down as you think it, as you say it, write it down. It's just for you to look at. You don't have to share it with anybody, including me, right? So on day 3, what I want you to do is actually look at these statements, right? And again, I don't want you to judge. I don't want you getting mad at yourself for saying negative things about yourself to yourself, right? But I want you to ask just 2 questions about each statement. The first question being, is this 100% actual, factual truth? Like, there is no way this is not true. There is not 1% of this statement that may not be true. Okay. That is the first question that you have to ask. Now, if there's 1% that may not be true, the answer to that question is no. Right. And so the second question is, what is an alternative? All right. What is an alternative thing that I can say to myself that still has truth, but that makes me feel more powerful and or brings me more peace? You know, a quick example, right? Saying I always mess things up, right? Can change to, that didn't go as planned, but at least I'm willing to try, right? Or, the thought that no one cares. I'm just not important. No one cares about me. Okay, well, start thinking about how you would treat yourself if you were important. Make a list of things that you would do if you are important. Pick one and go do it today. Start treating yourself like you're important. All right, start speaking to yourself like you're important. The point is that your thoughts are either building you up or they're breaking you down. Right. So now we have to start taking responsibility for these thoughts and not just claim that they're automatic. Right. So we want to reword, right, our thoughts into statements or questions that will help you to come back stronger tomorrow. Right. Each day you should be building and getting stronger and getting more confident. But the only way that that can happen is by the way that you talk to yourself. Now, for me, the main tool that I use now is called stacking. And I do this in the Warrior app because it helps me to it helps to guide me right through specific questions. And it pushes me to face my thoughts, my emotions, and also just the clear cut facts about each situation. And it requires me to question them. Okay, question what I believe about the situation, my story, right? And then it forces me to rewrite a better story that serves me and puts me in a powerful place where I can start taking control of my life again. Okay, this is the same app that I use with my clients. Right? Some people may think, this identifying the thieves, rewriting stories, like, what is that really all about? Is like you sitting there just trying to talk positive. It's like you're just lying to yourself. That's all you're doing. And so this is what I'm going to share with you. The truth is, absolutely nothing has meaning. Nothing has meaning until we assign it one. This is why a certain action can mean one thing in one culture and mean something different in another culture. This is why two people can go through the same exact experience and come up with two different outcomes. It's not the experience that dictates it, it's the meaning that we give it. So, what we're doing here, right, what I'm trying to help you do at this point is just be intentional about the meaning that you give things in your life. It's your life. You get to pick your story. You get to pick the meaning that you give everything in your life. It won't always be easy to shift the story, but you always have the option. So I definitely want you to step in that challenge. Just do it for yourself, but I would love to hear how the challenge turned out for anybody that's willing to share. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in. And until next time, this is Naphtali Anderson, and be blessed.